Hanging out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Remember, you can catch the show live on YouTube. You can just go to the 702 YouTube account to watch this show live. You listen and watch us at the same time. On our Hanging Out feature this morning, we're hanging out with the youngest minister. Earlier I said the youngest minister ever for basic education, but it's actually just the youngest minister ever in our democracy, Siviwe Gwarube, who is the Minister of Basic Education. And we're going to get to know her better between now and 11 o'clock. Siviwe, welcome to 702. Well, welcome back, because you've been on the show and in this building many times.
Yes. Thank you. It's good to be here and finally to get to have this hangout. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And we can finally make it happen. And also, welcome back from Paris.
Thank you. I'm still tired. Landed late yesterday and yeah.
Look at you.
Job.
Look at you, global trotter.
How are you dealing with traveling, by the way? Because I don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think even when you were a politician with the Democratic Alliance, you've ever traveled like you travel now as Minister of Basic Education.
No, not at all. It didn't come close. I mean, obviously, during an election campaign, you are on the road, but that is different because it's like 3 months of intense travel and like an intense election schedule.
Yeah.
But this is like continuous and it's consistent. So between living in two different cities and having two different wardrobes in Pretoria and in Cape Town, and trying to not make my milk go bad in the one house, and it is insane. And then obviously there's the periodic international travel, which for me is the hardest part because I get very anxious about leaving the sector. I mean, my sector has 13.5 million people.
Yeah.
Anything can go wrong, and so I don't like being very far away from home. But yeah.
I must also congratulate you for being elected the 2025 Young Global Leader by the World Economic Forum. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what are you guys going to be doing as young leaders? What does this mean?
So it's very cool, and I suppose it's also very prestigious. I know people like Macron are part of the class. Previously. Jacinda Ardern is also part of the class. So I suppose it's a very prestigious recognition of being a young leader under 40. And essentially what the Young Global Leaders seeks to do, which is comes from the World Economic Forum, seems to recognize young people who are changing the world in one way or another in the specific sector. And the cool thing is also that it's not just politics or government, it's various things. It's the arts. Like from South Africa, you also have Nomza Mumbata, who's also part of the 2025 class. So I think the one part is the recognition, but then the other part, you've got a 3-year term to try and utilize the global contacts you will make to make a positive impact either in your country or in the continent. And that for me, I think is the most exciting part, because over and above being, told that you are recognized, there's now also an additional responsibility to say, well, you've got these global contacts now. What kind of real life impact can you make for people?
That's amazing, man. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so the whole idea of the feature is also to get to know you better. And I want us to go back to your village. Where did you grow up? Is it at Konse? Okay,
oh
not
my
Konse.
goodness. People from the north.
Nani ninjalo angikwazi ukuthetha isipedi sethu imbombo akushisha. So tell me about how you grew up. Like, I know you speak a lot about your grandmother who raised you. How was it being raised by your grandmother, and where did you fall in love with just politics and wanting to be part of working for the citizens or working for this nation?
Yeah. So, so it's a very, very typical South African story, actually. Many children are raised by their grandmothers in this country, which, is another topic for another day that we probably one day must unpack. But, just very much I was born, my mom was very, very young when I was born. She was 17, turning 18. Yeah. And so she then needed to go back to school. And my grandmother was like, well, look, I've raised my children already. I'm done. So I want this child to have the best shot in life. And so that's when I moved in with her when I was a year old, and she raised me. My mom only died. So when I talk about my mom, I'm talking about my gran.
Yeah.
Mama only died when I was 30. And the funny thing is, she was constantly preparing me. She was like, you've got to be independent. You've got to study hard. You've got to work hard. We only have one shot at this. I don't want to leave you when you're too young.
Sure.
Remember, I'm 50 years older than you. I don't want to die before you've made something of yourself. And so that was always the mantra, like even going through school, just like, do your best. I'm here. And we were so blessed.
Was
because
she a teacher?
Yes.
She sounds like she was a teacher.
Yes, she was a teacher. She was a teacher, Mama. And I mean, I suppose she wouldn't enjoy me saying this, but she retired when corporal punishment was outlawed. She said, no.
I can't do this.
You spare the rod, you spoil the child. And she was like, no, so I am going to go rest. Clearly my time as a sort of old school teacher is up.
Yeah.
So that, and that's how I grew up. And she was incredible. She was my first experience of what I think feminism is.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have necessarily identified as a feminist, but my mom was a spinster. She decided not to get married. She had said to herself that she wouldn't be able to achieve half the things she wanted to achieve if she got married in that kind of regime.
So progressive.
At that time, yeah.
At that time?
Yeah. Her long lost lover went to Robben Island for many years, and when he left and was incarcerated, she was just like, I'm going to raise my children and I am going to be a teacher.
Oh my God, that sounds like such a cool mama.
Hey, man.
Really?
Hey,
I would have loved to meet your grandma.
she
would be so proud of you now. I'm sure she is.
No, she is.
I'm sure she's so proud of you
And I'm
now.
so glad we got to hang out.
Yeah.
As an adult, I got to show her things. We got to travel a little bit around the country. She was so funny, man. So I'm glad that I managed to give her that.
Yeah. So I've had this debate with the listeners before on the show, because I think some of us who've been raised by our grandmothers, and I was raised by my grandmother from when I was young, probably till I was about 7, 8 or so, somewhere there. But I do think that we've got a different way of life. Like, we can do our chores. We've got better values. Like, we are just better humans. We've had this debate before. Some people who feel like, no, people who are raised by grandmothers are too spoiled, which to an extent I do believe. What do you think are the advantages and the disadvantages? If I can ask you to give me one or two. Advantage, disadvantage of being raised by a grandmother.
Great advantage. I feel like one of the things that Mama taught me is imbeko. But like, I feel like respect doesn't even begin to describe what imbeko is. Like respect for another. Like my mom was big on that. Doesn't matter who you greet, you treat people well. You don't get, it's not a social strata here. Apha endlini, everybody is equal and you give them the recognition. And I think the downside, I do kind of have an exceptionalism kind of mentality, because she kind of told me I can do anything. And I mean, I can, but not all at once.
And sometimes you're like, oh, I couldn't do that. But grandmother said I could. On respect though, how then did you just rationalize you being in politics, where sometimes you had to be fair and tough towards older people, like Jacob Zuma, Baleka Mbete, they're in parliament? Because I find that when I go back home, my uncles, even my grandmother when she was alive, used to say to me, you are disrespectful to the politicians on TV. Why did you talk to the president like that? Why did you talk to this minister like that? I'm like, that's the job. It doesn't mean I disrespect them. In that moment, I have to ask the tough question. They never get it. So did your grandmother get it that sometimes you have to be tough on Jacob Zuma or Baleka Mbete or whoever in parliament?
I remember asking Dr. Mkhize a very controversial question in my first year in parliament in 2019, and my mom was still alive then. And she was mortified. She was like, listen, first of all, this is dangerous. Do not do this. Do not talk to people like this. And also just soften it. And don't speak like that about them, please. So a part of me is also sometimes glad that she's not around now, because I just feel like she would not cope with the harshness of public life. She would be very devastated. I mean, well, even when I was appointed, people were saying like, some trade unions came out and they were like, we don't want her.
Yeah.
I just imagine her sitting there listening to Umhlobo Wenene and being like, oh, not my child. So, yeah.
Oh man, it's so. I remember interviewing. Who was that guy from Mpumalanga, a taxi association guy? And I remember, and he threatened me on air. And
goodness.
And my mom called immediately and said, "You can't, like you." And he was serious. He was like, "We are struggling. Like I'm here in Mpumalanga, and I'm concerned about your safety."
Oh my goodness.
Those people you spoke to are known to be notorious.
Oh my
So
goodness.
you need to stop this. I can't. It's job. Okay, there's so much to still talk about, Siviwe, but I want us to now play one of your favorite songs. So
I love music.
I have to say that I was pleasantly surprised that you're also a big fan of Nomfundo Xaluva. Because I don't think we've actually appreciated her enough. What an incredible artist.
Oh, my goodness. I cannot wait. So she's the one who's convinced me to go to the jazz festival. I was not going to go to the jazz festival, but I am going to the jazz to listen to this woman live because, woo!
Yeah. So which one of her songs?
So Him for Bully,
Him for Bully is the one.
Great.
Okay.
And there's another one that's very Methodist-like that I really like. And then there's another one with it's a tribute to her daughter, Uzizi.
I love Nomfundo, and I actually found out recently that she actually is a lecturer. She teaches music.
I didn't know that.
And I was like, that makes sense because when you listen to how strategic and intentional every note is in her music, it's just incredible. Here's Nomfundo Xaluva. Oh my God, I can't. I want to listen to that song like 10 times.
Yeah.
Because that's a tribute to her mother.
So I think Ubuli was her mom, because she says in the song, so I think utatak. And then she says that so your appointment when you meet up with him. It's like romantic and like okay.
It's a beautiful song. It really touched me. Okay, let's go to some WhatsApps now. 072-702-1702. Do you have a question for our Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Gwarube? We're getting to know her better this morning. And I know, often when we speak to Siviwe, it's like these tough conversations and the difficult questions.
Nation.
We're facing the nation. And you know what's surprising on YouTube? By the way, I'm seeing your comments on YouTube, so keep them coming. I'll read them from there. So you go to our 702 YouTube page if you want to watch this conversation live. But it's so interesting, Siviwe, how, like Dumisani, for instance, on YouTube says, Clement, I so love that woman. And then another one says, Clement, our Minister of Basic Education is so cool and so calm. Does it surprise you that people don't know you're so cool?
Yeah.
Because when you become a minister now, there's a particular posture you take.
Yeah. And I suppose for me, that's the biggest, that's one of the things that I miss most about not being a minister is being able to show up as myself.
Yeah.
And I try to be as authentic as possible. I don't wear a mask, but at the end of the day, people make those assumptions because, and this is the sad thing. I was saying to the team the other day, I was saying, in as much as sometimes they help me run some of my public accounts, I still want to be absolutely active on there because one of the biggest criticisms I used to have of like government accounts or government ministers is like you can tell somebody's sitting there tweeting on their behalf.
Like, that's not you, ma'am.
Exactly. So I still want to show people that there can be a more direct interaction with people who are leaders in your country. And also, like, they're also human beings too.
And you're a human being and you're cool. I remember there was a time when you were appointed, people went to your social media.
That video.
They got videos of you having your Jaeger or whatever. And I was thinking, wait, like, what do you think? Do you think like she was sitting in a house waiting to be appointed like a pastor or a minister? Like, this is someone who's got a life.
it traumatized my family a lot.
They've never seen it before?
Yeah, well, I mean, no one like goes onto my Instagram, and then it kind of went onto WhatsApps and Facebook. And I remember getting a call from my family, and they were like, "Listen, we have to have a conversation about this."
Like,
I was
what
guys,
is this?
I was like, "Guys, this is 3 years old. Like, this is not even now. I promise." And they were like, "But who are you talking to?" I'm like,
Also,
"Oh,
it's Jaeger, guys. Like,
I'm not doing anything illegal." Okay, I was on a holiday with friends, and we were just horsing around, you know. So yeah. Anyway.
It's so unfair to be like a public figure because there are certain things that normal people do that it's so normal, but you just can't do it.
Hey, Dumela Clement, what a humble, down-to-earth human being you have there. You know, Siviwe, during the campaign of the DA, she used to say, to umama, ohlala emkanduli, ongenawo amanzi, oluncedo luyeza nakuwe. To umntana wesikolo, ongenawo ama-toilet, oluncedo luyeza nakuwe. So I used to say together with her when she's on the stage. And I remember meeting her on the show at Joburg there, asked for a picture with her, and then I was so scared. And then she accepted, she agreed to take a picture with me. So from Midlands. I even sent a picture with my secretary.
That's so cool. There are a few people sending pictures that they took with you during campaigns, some when they just spotted you. Do you get that a lot, and how do you deal with it? Because it's like you're a public official, but there's some people that'll see you as like, oh, there's our celebrity.
Yeah. Well, first of all, now I can't look crusty at the airport. Firstly. So now when I have to go to the airport, I have to be like,
I have to dress up.
I need to put in a little bit of effort.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. Look, I mean, I suppose for me, because growing up, we didn't have people who looked like me, who sounded like me, who come from the same places as me as politicians. Yeah. I have a greater appreciation that we are starting to show South Africans that these are just people that you've hired through your vote. They are not any different. So I kind of also enjoy like meeting people who are like, oh, listen, can you take a picture for my kid? She's in matric. Okay, can we record a video and say good luck for your exams? So for me, so I have a greater appreciation that this is a new thing for most South Africans, and it really comes from a good place.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people who gawk at you and just kind of, sneakily take pictures. But of course, they should just like ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that,
it's cool. It's fun. It's now 10:30.
Out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
It's 25 minutes now before 11 o'clock. On our Hanging Out feature this morning, we have got Siviwe Gwarube, who's the Basic Minister of Education, the Minister of Basic Education. Do you get irritated by how many people get your surname wrong? Because it irritates me. Like,
yes. So
even your colleagues, Gwarube.
It's very tough. Also because like I come from the Eastern Cape and people there never mispronounced it. And then the day I left the Eastern Cape, I was like, I got Siviwe, Gwarube.
Yeah. Gwarube.
Gwarube.
Yeah. Siviwe
But I have patience to teach if somebody's interested. What I don't like is, ask, say, how do I say it?
What irritates me is when people actually know because they've heard you say it and they've heard many people say it, but they still want to insist on saying it this particular way. Yeah. Okay, so there's someone who's asking here about, hi Clement, this is Tevin who says, Clement, please ask the Honorable Minister there. Honorable. I always get fascinated because even at events, like sometimes you MC events and they insist that the minister must be Honorable Minister. He's like, but I said minister.
Yes, yes.
No, you must say honorable.
Also, you're not honorable unless you're in the house, actually.
Yeah.
Actually.
I must say that to them next time.
You're not honorable unless you are in the House of Parliament.
Yeah. But also, it's not so disrespectful. Like, you're still saying minister. Anyway, this person says, can you ask the Honorable Minister how her interactions are with ANC members and whether she had any affinity to the party's history, given that she's from a province of legends?
So firstly, okay, so I think I want to tackle the first part. So I'm what you generally call first generation DA member. I have never been part of any other political party. I do come from a very heavy ANC family. I'll never forget the devastation of 2006 after Polokwane. Like it caused devastation in my family when
Do they support Thabo Mbeki?
Yes, they were a big Thabo Mbeki. My mom in particular was a big Thabo Mbeki fan. And I mean, like, she was personally touched.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, and then there was, talk around during family events, are they all gonna now vote COPE or whatnot? And so, yeah.
Did she convince you to vote for COPE?
So actually, interestingly, my first vote ever in university was for COPE.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know who to vote for. and I mean, and there were rumors that Thabo Mbeki was going to move over to COPE. And, but then I got to varsity, and then I started forming my own political ideology, and I got involved in the DA student organization. And then really got involved with the DA through the DA Young Leaders program. And that's when I met Olindi, where I started working for her as her media officer back in 2012. And then that's how and when the political bug bit. I remember being like a 22-year-old in the halls of Parliament when we moved the first motion of no confidence against former President Jacob Zuma. I was like living the dream of a political, and so that's when the political bug bit. And then with regards to my relationship with ANC people now, I really have good relationships with generally most people, as most of them, most of my colleagues in cabinet. And I think also just one of the things that I can assure people that, the kind of bustle and tussle that is seen often on the floor of Parliament is not really what happens behind closed doors. Generally, most people are just like really civil and decent, and you get to know a different side of them.
Yeah.
And
then they go play politics outside.
Yeah. So I actually have really good relations with my colleagues.
Great. Lorraine says, Clement, please ask Siv there, isituko o sakhe, isituko ungumabani from Nonkozelo in Orlando West.
Yes.
I don't know what I've just read, what that means. So
it means
is it a question? Is it a statement?
It is a question. It's asking me about my clan name.
Yeah.
So I is Sam Mamushe. All right? Mamushe Ipaca. Uchiyo Tombela. Baba nomhlehlo. So the Amapaca are largely two groups. There's Amapaca from the former Transkei, and there's some Amapaca who settled in the former Ciskei area, and I am from the latter. So Dilipaca.
Yeah. And then Usas also said, Clement, I also want to know isituko se minister before I propose live on television. Is there a chance?
A chance?
For anybody out there?
No.
I wanna, huh? No.
I'm good.
Shame. Sorry, guys. Askies. And then here's another one here. Hi, good morning, Clement. Okay, I'll get to this question after these calls. Let's start with you first, Solomon in Kempton Park. Hi, Solomon. Okay, Solomon, I don't know what's wrong with that. Let's go to the WhatsApps while we reestablish that line with Solomon in Kempton Park.
Good morning, Clement, and our Honorable Minister of Basic Education, and to our listeners at large. To the Minister, I ask God to shower you with wisdom, and whatever you do, never compromise the education of a black child. My question to you is, what message can you send out to our learners who's changing the school environment into battlefields where we as parents are too scared to send our children to school because of what is happening at our schools? What is your message to the country and to the learners at large? Thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. In fact, on the front page of the Sowetan, they've got a story of how schools are grouped in gang terror. I think in Orange Farm, that's one of the areas that have been affected.
Yeah, Clement. Look, I mean, the issue, in fact, this came up very sharply in our visit, in the presidential visit we were in yesterday in PE. The issue around safety in schools is really one that has reached crisis levels. So whether you are dealing with crime that's in the community that's affecting the schools, or whether you're dealing with violence within the school. And I think that there are various ways in which we need to deal with this. Number one, the one issue is around adults who assault children at school. SACE has been very good at making sure that we are vetting teachers who come in contact with children. But I've been very clear to the department that even in provinces, we must make sure that we vet anybody who comes in contact with a child, whether it's the security guard, whether it's a food handler at school, whether it's the cleaner. But we need to make sure that anyone who comes in contact with kids, we know exactly what it is, whether or not they have a criminal record. But at the end of the day, Clement, the thing about harming children is that, holding somebody responsible after the fact is that already harm has been caused, immeasurable harm. And so really we have to teach children on the one side to identify what inappropriate behavior is, to identify how and when they should speak up, because these are the things that we need to do simultaneously. Then in the next coming weeks, Minister Mkhunu and I are going to be launching our school safety plan, where the SAPs are coming on board with really key crime stats and locating them in schools. They've been able to drill down in specific schools in high-risk areas to tell us this is how many stabbings are happening here. This is the kind of drug abuse that is happening here. And for the first time, we're now going to be led by data in how to intervene with SAPs. Because before, we just had a general framework of working together with SAPs, which is not good enough. Because right now, as Lomama is saying, and in the front page of Sowetan is saying, we are seeing gang violence playing itself out inside schools.
Yeah.
And it's going to repel teachers. It's also going to repel parents who want to send their kids to school.
Your portfolio is so huge. Like, it's a huge responsibility. I mean, any country that wants to progress, one of the things you need to really focus on massively is the state of education, especially basic education. How did you respond when you got the call from the president?
Well, first,
what time was it? And were you shocked?
Well, firstly, I mean, it all happened very strange and very quickly in a sense. I mean, remember, I was part of the negotiating team during that time. So I spent a month in a hotel somewhere here in Gauteng negotiating. And then it just seemed as though, now the negotiations had gone to a point where it was just John and the president that were now speaking, and so we could go home. So I went home for the weekend, and I was just trying to recuperate. I'd been through the selection campaign. And then on the Saturday evening, I got because remember we had the family meeting on the Sunday. Yes, it was on the Sunday. So on the Saturday evening, I got a call from John saying, look, things are looking like we are able to come to a deal. And so, just to give you an update. And so I was like, okay, cool. Well, thank you, I suppose. So then I was like, okay, cool. Look, let me just maybe send him a text. I was like, look, if I am in your consideration for the people who may be going into the executive. This is kind of my wish list. And I can tell you with certainty that basic education was not in that wish list. And then on the Sunday, he called and he said, look, I can't think of anyone who can do this. I really want, and I was like, it's big. And he was like, I cannot think of anyone better to do this. And so it didn't actually become real until the president read out my name on TV that night. I was like, oh my goodness, it's not real.
Who did you call first?
Well, I told my family like 2 hours before, and I was like, please don't tell anyone because the nature of this GNU, like things could change. Don't
listen. It could change a second before.
And don't post anything. Just
don't
keep
go on
quiet.
Facebook.
Just keep quiet. I'm just warning you so that you don't get a shock. And then when it happened, I mean, my phone was like melting down. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go sleep. I'll deal with this in the morning. And then friends of mine like popped into our house, and they came with flowers, and so So it's taken me a long time to actually recognize how privileged I am on a personal level to be able to do this, because immediately from day one, I was just like, I'm coming in with an injury. I don't know the sector. I've got to learn. I've got to go. I've got to learn quickly. I've got to go to the provinces. And so for 6 months, all I did flat out was to try and educate myself. And I hadn't even had a moment to be like, well, this is happening. And so now I'm just kind of learning to, yes, it's stressful. Yes, it's a big job. Yes, it's a big responsibility. Yes, there's 13.5 million children who we have to look after. But also it's okay to like sometimes take a breather.
Absolutely.
Go for a walk and just be normal, because it's only when you're a holistic human being can you truly show up properly as a leader.
Yeah, speaking of taking a breather, Kanye West.
Yes.
Is one of your favorite artists?
Well, old Kanye.
Oh, thank God you said that, because I divorced Kanye. When was it? I divorced him actually live on air. Like,
really?
I just got live on air and I was like, this is it. I'm filing for, this is 2 years ago. I think 2.5 years ago. And I loved Kanye so much.
My brother, new Kanye, I don't recognize. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know who this new Kanye is.
So
To the old,
Kanye.
yeah.
I love old Kanye.
I love old Kanye.
Yeah.
So what a brilliant,
Hey,
what a
man.
man, what a brilliant brain. I don't know what happened, but I hope he'll come back.
Yeah.
Here's one of Siviwe's favorite tracks by old Kanye.
Yes.
It may not mean nothing to y'all. No break dance.
Oh, man. I mean, Lil Wayne. Oh, man. What a song.
What a song.
Yeah.
This is my favorite workout song, because I'm just like, yes, man. Yes.
Listen, I've got a 10K to do after the show. I'm going to be listening to this.
Indeed.
Yeah, I'm going to be listening to this.
Morning, Clem and Minister. Minister, massive fan of your work, your attitude, your vibe, and your laugh. I want to find out your thoughts on homeschooling. We decided to homeschool our daughter because she wasn't necessarily fitting into the one-size-fits-all general system of our schooling. And she's thriving. She even jumped a grade. She's 16, doing her matric this year. But she's thriving more like academically than she's ever thrived before. And then secondly, what are the chances one day we'll have kids coming out of school having learned stuff, being able to build stuff, fix stuff, manufacture stuff, do their own taxes, read a balance sheet? When is our education going there?
So, firstly, thank you so much, Dr. DJ Fresh. I mean, Dr. Fresh.
Okay, let's Professor Fresh.
Prof
Yeah.
Fresh. Thank you so much, DJ Fresh. DJ Fresh used to play when I was at Rhodes.
Oh, you were not those kids.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
generation that DJ Fresh.
He was here and he used to say that, you know how many kids left university to just come to like one party.
No,
when
I was at
hosted.
Rhodes, and when he used to go play there. Yeah. So you asked a very important question around homeschooling, and we currently are in the process of developing guidelines for homeschooling in particular. In fact, it's such a pity that the homeschooling aspect wasn't included in the Bella Bill, because part of the amendments to the SA Schools Act that's brought by Bella is actually to bring effect to some of these things that are already happening but didn't have this kind of legal framework. So we are currently in the process of developing guidelines and regulations for homeschooling, because what we want to be able to do is children, for instance, like as DJ Fresh is saying, that there are children who don't fit, who can't be pigeonholed into an academic system. And if you are able to homeschool your children, these then are the things that you ought to do so that they don't struggle, for instance, to leave from home to be able to go to a university. So those are the things and the snags that we are working out as a system to say, if you're choosing to homeschool your kids, how then do we make it easier for you, number one? And number two, how do we make it easy for the child to transition, for instance, from school to university or wherever else? Then the last question you asked is also around vocational training. Is absolutely right, and And part of what we're trying to do is also diversify our offering. So it's not just academic skills, but we're also trying to have schools of skills. There's a fantastic one here, Soweto, where children are learning to build, learning to weld, learning to varnish wood and carpentry. And that kind of work is also important, Clement, because often we say to children who are not thriving academically, we are saying to them that they have no place in an academic system, when in fact they can.
Yeah.
It just needs us to be able to respond to children's needs as opposed to telling them what we want.
Hanging out with Clement
On 702.
Let's walk the talk.
4 minutes before 11 o'clock, we're wrapping up our Hanging Out feature with Siviwe Gwarube, who is the Minister for Basic Education. I want to bring in someone on the line now. Sibongile, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. Siviwe isicelo samaushe.
She just started laughing. So, Sibongile, you are one of Siviwe's childhood friends. What can you tell us about her? Because, we see the politician, we see the minister. What is it we don't know about her that you so appreciate Wenake as a friend?
Firstly, she's not cool. Stop telling her she's cool.
What are you talking about? She just played as Kanye West. That's the coolest thing ever.
No, my worry is that I now have to deal with someone who says, people think I'm cool. You are the only person who does not believe this thing. She's neither cool nor funny.
Yeah.
But outside of that, she's a very extremely passionate individual and a softie at heart.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I find amazing is how resilient she is, because the Twitter streets
It's hard
will
out
drag
there.
on one side,
Yeah.
and then social media will drag on the one side and be on her case. But after a good pep talk, the next day she's like, okay, this is actually the work I'm supposed to be doing outside of people's opinions and all of that. But she's a very gifted individual.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Sibongile Tuna,
You
thank
dark
you.
horse, you dark horse.
And then we've got a message from Vusi on YouTube says, Sis Siviwe is a true public servant. I mean, such a wonderful soul. I wish her all the best. And then says, what? I have a question for her. Which institution did she study in? Because the English is on another level. Where did you go to school?
I went to Rose, UW, and
Before?
at UCT at Kingsridge High School.
Okay. And then another one says, Clement, amazing show there. What an amazing minister. So cool. And then Tevin says, Clement, I remember speaking to the minister at the ball run in Senton, and I manifested that she would be minister, and she's just simply smiled back. Can you give Tevin some credit here?
Hey, Tevin! Thank you, my guy. Thank you.
And then another one says, Clement, thank you for inviting the Minister of Basic Education. So much love. And welcome back. Really enjoying the show. Siviwe, it's been fun.
Oh, Clement, thank you so much. It's been so much fun. I want to stay here now.
Yeah, right?
But I have a whole day ahead of me. So.
Thank you for making time. And we really want to wish you all the best. I think
you.
you're an example of what's possible.
Thank you.
Especially to young people. We're tired of having old people in parliament or in cabinet, but busy rap, and it's just smelling rap there. So it's good to see young people who are equally capable of doing the work and who are passionate doing it. So thank you for coming through, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you. And thank you so much to the listeners.